Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm actually really excited. We put out a lot of reports throughout the year, and by far the most popular one that we put out is the salary guide. So today I'm happy to launch our 2018 Hays US salary guide, and specifically we're going to dive into some of the findings for our construction part of the report. So I'm going to go through a quick preview today, and really this webinar, we've blocked about 30 minutes out just purely for reviewing some content, sharing that with you, and then we will carve out some time at the end, as Heather said, for some questions. So if you have any throughout the program, go ahead and send those through to the Hays WebEx host, and just use the chat function, and we'll take a look, and I'll answer as many as I can at the end. So as Heather said, my name is James Hawley. My role is I actually lead the construction business, specifically for Hays US, so nationally, and I've been recruiting for more than 2 decades now, of which the last 17 years have been here. And I'm not sure how familiar you guys are globally, but Hays is the largest professional recruitment company, and we have over 10,000 recruiters worldwide. Here in the US, we're fast approaching about 300, and that continues to grow. And we really focus our recruiting efforts into just a handful of sectors. We're very specialized here, and those areas are construction, property, IT, life sciences, accounting, as well as finance roles. And I think that gives us some really good insight into a variety of industries and how they hire people, which we apply to this report. So some of you may have seen in the past our previous salary guides, which have been purely construction-oriented the past few years. Well, this year we actually expanded that, and we're making actually our first cross-sector guide. So this looks at our national trends across 5 key sectors, and we had over 3,000 people respond and answer the questions that we're able to then pull the data and provide in the survey. And so really this is the largest report that we've ever done. And with all the data we put together, we take this guide, and really it's not just about salary numbers, but we've also broken it down into some sectors as well as hiring plans. And then we've also inserted, in my opinion, a key ingredient where we took the data and we used our own experts in the field to actually add some recommendations. And so we're going to apply those to this report, and I'll go through some of those today. All right, so enough setup. Let's really take a look specifically about what we found in this report. So I'll start really at the top with the business activity and economic outlook, and then really we'll look down through the effects of hiring, the planning around that, as well as compensation. So these charts that I'm going to start out with really show business activity, and it's really the growth that we had in 2017 and showing expectations for 2018. And overall, construction companies extremely bullish in the sector. In fact, the construction employers that we surveyed were actually the most optimistic group out of everyone in all of our sectors for this report. And really what that means is about 2/3 were saying that business activity increased last year, and 3/4 are expecting further growth in 2018 this year. When we asked about the overall U.S. economy, really 2/3 said it was strengthening, which is 11% higher than any other sector that we surveyed. So really overall, construction professionals and employers are extremely confident and optimistic, not only about the current state of where we're at, but also what's coming next and the future for the industry in the near term. So you can only imagine, what do you think the effect of all of this, positive momentum and growth is having on hiring plans? So the reality is, as you can imagine, they're looking to hire a lot more. And what that means is starting with 2017 on the left is our full-time headcount increases. More than half of construction firms are increasing their headcount and this is what happened last year with really a much higher than expected across construction versus the other sectors that we surveyed. We also see, specifically in the numbers, that almost a quarter decreased headcount, but we really see this as more of a factor of timing of large projects being completed without really one of equal size to roll that staff back into. So we really don't see as a major factor of lack of work, and the macro data really supports that. And the key overall is that hiring is not going anywhere, it just continues to rise. In fact, specifically, construction employers were 17% more likely than average to increase headcount last year. And then looking at what is in the expectations for the year ahead, you can see that a huge increase in headcount is indeed expected, with 3/4 of employers planning to increase in the coming year, which again is at an all-time high. It's also about a third higher than any other sector that we had respond, and it's 43% higher than 2017 growth. So that's really going to put a lot of pressure on an already stressed system of local talent pool. This really leads us to the question of, if we have economic confidence at peak levels and growth in the company hiring is expected to continue to rise, something's got to give. So the question becomes, how does that impact pay, so that you guys know how to line yourself up with your talent pool? So we think this chart really does a good job of demonstrating and shows salary increase trends from last year and then towards expectations for this year, 2018. So as you can see, most employers are increasing salaries, and many are increasing by more than 3%, which for us is kind of that draw line of cost of living. So really anything 3% or below is really just adjusting for inflation, and above 3% is a true increase. I can tell you that compared to other sectors that we looked at, construction employers were much more likely to increase salaries by more than 3% or even by more than 5%. So in fact, almost a quarter of construction employers surveyed said that they increased salaries by more than 3%. So that's 38% higher than our overall average. So you can just see, again, the pressure, the wage pressure that we're seeing in the markets. And this really does align with the economic reports, which show that 2017 salaries increased faster in construction than really any other industry. So looking ahead, overall, the proportion of employers giving increases is very similar to last year, but we're seeing a significant shift towards increases between 3 and really 5% rather than at the higher end. So they're still moderate. More than half of construction employers will increase salaries by more than that 3% next year based on the data. So these results are really especially interesting when we compare how different groups are feeling about compensation and some of those trends, really beyond just organizational trends. So related to compensation, where it's going, it's definitely increasing at a very steady clip and faster than really most other sectors. But despite that upward trend in pay rates, really only half of construction professionals say that their salary is competitive with the market rate. So there's a couple things that could be happening here. One is that those rates really don't align with the market, that some employers are not keeping up with market expectations. And for some people, that's probably true. I'm sure there are companies struggling to keep up with these increases, but overall, the trend that we're seeing when we talk to candidates is that some people are expecting higher and higher salaries, even above the level that the market has reached. So again, candidates are getting, increases at a clip that they're expecting more and more. And when the candidates are expecting excuse me, these high salaries, you really have employers who, some of them are able to pay those. And we can see this trend, excuse me, where more than 2/3 of managers say that they've increased a salary above their initial range, so what they were expecting to pay, they've increased that specifically for a person that they wanted to get on their team. So not only could this have a major impact on your payroll budget for the year, but you could also be creating dissatisfied employees on your team if a new hire is already out earning someone that's been with you for a long period of time. So it's creating a lot of problems within our industry. And unsurprisingly with these trends, when asked where they felt the most competition and competitiveness for talent is, construction employers say that they can, pay more, but, their biggest competition is somebody's outpaying them. So across all three of these findings, we can see that there's a lot of concern around compensation, and some regions are already experiencing really unsustainable salary increases. So if the industry can't move beyond, just that base compensation as an attraction tool, then really more and more firms are going to be priced out of the market. So if compensation alone isn't the answer for attraction and retention, what are some of the other trends that we're seeing within companies' hiring plans? As I said earlier, 3/4 of construction employers say they will increase headcount this year after more than half increased headcount last year. But the survey showed what I think we're all aware of, that it won't be easy to find the people for those positions. So 4 out of 5 construction employers say that there's an absolute skill shortage in the industry, really no surprises. More than half said that that shortage is extremely significant. And unsurprisingly, almost everyone said that the skills shortage is having a negative impact on their business, from productivity, staff turnover. I mean, those are really the main key areas affected based on all the survey data that we took. So what's really the reason for the shortage? So let's dive into that. I mean, the top answer by far is that fewer people are entering the job market. So I think we've heard that for a number of years. It's a much discussed issue across construction. A lot of younger people don't really see construction as a strong career option. There's a lot of misinformation out there, really despite the strength of the industry overall. So we have a pretty serious skills gap between the baby boomers who are currently leading much of the industry and that Gen X and Y professional who will need to really step into those roles over the next 5 to maybe 10 years. And while retirement isn't top of mind for most employers, it's going to make this shortage even worse as construction firms try to fill those leadership roles from an even smaller talent pool going forward. So as for something that's really practical at a level for employers that they can do to help themselves in the industry, getting after that skill shortage and really getting people into the industry is important. So what we've really looked at is it's really, there's a lack of available training and development. So I would encourage everyone on this call as a construction employer to really look at your hiring of junior, entry level, and really focus on training them into more experienced positions. So if you can really do that and grow your own talent, home grow it, it's a really good way of addressing the shortages. You're kind of making your own talent pool, you're building out your leadership pipeline, as well as you're keeping your culture really tight since folks have actually grown up through your organization. So digging a bit deeper into these shortages, what I want to do is really look at where employers are struggling to hire and how that is affecting wages. So who are the most difficult individuals to find within our survey data? I don't think the answer would really surprise too many of you guys. Our own construction recruitment teams deal with this all the time. We get input really from all of our recruiters as we go through the salary guide, And I'd say that estimating tops that list for every region every year is what we see, as well as the data showing. So those are the most challenging by quite a bit. Next is senior leadership and project managers. Again, not really surprising. These are roles that are really directly affected by that skills gap, where the talent pipeline has been low for really going on the last 10 years, maybe more. Interesting to note that more than half of employers say that corporate service roles are really hard to find. So, I just want to mention, that we do have an accounting and finance team that specializes in hiring specifically for construction firms within the industry. So a couple of our regions, we're rolling that out. So if that is an area that you guys are yourself having issues with and need support, please get in touch with us, after the presentation, and I'm sure we can help. So really looking at just the overall roles that are hardest to hire for, how's that impacting wage pressure? So if we look at the flip side of it, are we paying more for those roles? And the short answer is yes. The top really three are really feeling that wage pressure, which no surprise are actually the most challenging to fill, so it makes complete sense. Chief estimator roles have extremely high wage pressure, so do project managers and senior leadership roles. So the most skill-short areas are obviously where we're seeing the most from a price point standpoint. No one is really surprised, but overall, I think it's important that if you're looking to hire, look at your hiring plans, and you got to take into account increases in your payroll budget to factor in for the year to come, as well as out years. So now we know really where we're struggling, some of the top spots, but how are all of you guys addressing some of these challenges that we've discussed? So this list really shows us how construction employers say that they're attracting top talent. It's actually pretty telling. So the top three with a lot more responses than any other answer are salary, company culture, and benefits. So that's really a focus on compensation as well as culture. And that's really not bad. You should totally be promoting these things. They're important, and they build really strong businesses. And the reality is, meeting market rate for salaries and promoting company culture and offering sought-after benefits are absolutely critical. They're must-haves within an attraction tool plan. In fact, I actually think it's pretty surprising that if you look at it, that only half of the respondents are really promoting each of these areas. But then we see this big drop-off. So only 1/3 are promoting career progression or training and development, which we know is a critical attraction tool, and it's really what candidates are looking for. So growing your own talent is extremely important, and it's a key part of building that talent pipeline that I mentioned. And then 1 in 8 employers are doing really nothing to attract talent. So I'd be really curious to know how that's working for them. So they're really just this is the way we do business, and they're keeping it status quo, which the reality is it's just not cutting it in this market. So this is what you're doing to attract people, but let's take a look at what channels are you using and what's really working for your competitors. So we asked employers both how they recruited as well as which channels were most effective. So when it came to what people were doing, employee referrals and general job boards are absolutely the most common. So those are the two staples. But what really did people say was most effective? At the top of the list is a specialist recruiter, which is music to my ears. I'm extremely happy as well as relieved to see that, because I really do believe that, what we do is extremely effective, and, that building that strong industry relationship and targeting, recruiting experts to specific skills, that we can smooth that recruitment process out for clients. And it's a difficult job. and we're doing it every day, all day. So that's why our recruiters are more effective. You know, most companies do tell us that they just simply can't replicate that effectiveness internally, you know, for hiring, especially right now. And because it's so critical, you know, they really have to get results. So now only 39% of people said they really use recruiters. So that's something just to think about for the coming year. There's probably some areas, and we get used all the time for specific roles, but not others. So it's really figuring out a balanced attack. But what you'll notice here is that 2 out of 3, are actually not on the most used list. So the good news for the 2/3 of you that are using employee referrals is that these are also very effective, great way of attracting the right people into your organization. However, your employee network is going to be limited. You probably have already tapped that for the most part, and it's a drip feed, it's a trickle, it's not really a flow of candidates. So you need to find other ways to really expand that network and keep reaching out to new people to attract good ones. Okay, so that's really what we're doing to find candidates as an industry, but could there be some spots in your process where you're losing people? So let's look at really what candidates think their biggest, you know, job search challenges are and how you guys are addressing it. So we asked job seekers what challenges they are facing, and these are the top 5 responses. So the lengthy hiring process is something that we see every single day on the front lines of recruitment. Good candidates don't stay on the market for very long. So if your process is taking months, not weeks, you really could be missing out on top talent. So take a look at that and take inventory. And could you expedite, you know, the process quicker? And that really correlates with number 3, the lack of communication. So that's key. Make sure that you're communicating at every stage and setting realistic expectations for the candidates. When they don't hear from you for days on end, they're going to assume the worst, and they're probably going to move on and focus on other employers. And that last point, you know, I really want to talk about is unconscious bias. So women in the construction industry were almost twice as likely to say that this was a true challenge compared to men. So if diverse hiring is one of your company goals and you're taking it serious and you really want to separate yourself to tap into that market, then really look at opportunities to introduce things like blind resume screening, as well as competency-based interviewing that can reduce some of these effects. Okay, all right, so that's really a big picture of the charts and facts I want to take you guys through. So to recap, business is really booming, no surprise. Hiring plans are ambitious, you guys know that. But really the skill shortage is driving that wage pressure and negatively affecting productivity. So I've been making some suggestions really throughout this program, but I want to take a look now at some specific actions that you can take that really could move the needle and improve your recruitment plans for 2018. So here are 3 areas where we spotted opportunities to better align employers with job seekers. For each, we'll look at some of the mismatches that we're seeing and then really, you know, look at what we can do to bridge those gaps. So employers are definitely underestimating the importance of career progression for both attraction as well as retention. So we asked both professionals and employers about the motivation for leaving a job. And most people, in fact about 1/3, say career progression was their main motivator. But when we looked at it, more than 1/3 of employers say that the main reason is salary. So in fact, salary is only the 3rd biggest motivator for leaving and changing jobs behind career growth as well as company culture. So what do you guys think that we could do about this? So when you're really trying to attract the best and the brightest, you have to emphasize the career opportunities. It's the main reason that ambitious people will leave. Pay only gets them so far, but knowing where they're going and achieving goals and levels of improvement career-wise are really key. And I think that a lot of employers are put off by the idea of career growth, probably because they have this, thought that it's really about promotions and salary increases. But really, what I would challenge you guys is to think beyond that. And what this often ties to is looking for genuine opportunities for people to learn new things and increase their responsibility. So to that end, introduce programs such as mentorships, job shadowing, and lunch and learns to make the most of the existing resources that you have in your organization today. There are a lot of companies doing really good things like this, so I would challenge you to reach out and actually work within your circles to see best practices locally. So really, when you look at this, it has two benefits. One, you're offering the professional development that people are looking for, and number two, you're keeping that knowledge within your organization, making sure that it's passed on to future company leaders. And finally, target the candidates that you're looking for. Career growth is most important to junior and intermediate candidates, many of whom are that Gen Y category. So when you're advertising those types of roles, it's especially important to emphasize within the job descriptions and what they'll be doing. Focus in on growth opportunities. Make sure that comes through loud and clear in your advertising. So let's start really with what employers think matter most. So not a lot of surprises here, but health is at the top, followed by 401k, and then company car is rated very high, which might be a little outdated. We know that Gen Y group are really less likely to care really strongly about a car compared to baby boomers. Then bonuses and dental rounded out the top group. And really, here's what job seekers on the flip side and employees really value. So looking at this, the good news is there's a lot of alignment actually on here. Everyone agrees health, it's a necessity, and it's important to have a good program. Dental comes with that. 401k, they're really important. They're thinking about the future. There's really little difference in the order, but overall, those are really the big ticks. But two things really stand out to me. So first, when we asked construction professionals which benefits they cared most about, bonus was absolutely the top. So don't get me wrong, health was up there. All the top 5 were agreed on by really 9 out of 10 construction professionals. So they're really, really important. But bonus is really important to those individuals when they're looking at a career change and potentially getting hired by a company. And actually only 45% of employers included it within their top 5. So I think there's a little bit of opportunity of that misalignment to where what employees are looking for and what employers are offering, so you can differentiate yourself. So if you're struggling to compete on compensation alone, really think about increasing your bonuses and how that aligns up with your payroll costs and your business results. So you can align it up so that it's a win-win for both you as well as the employee. And secondly, I'm sure that you saw this too, but people really care about those vacation days, time off, work-life balance. It didn't crack the employer's top 5, but it's rated above health, and dental by most every construction professional that we surveyed. And finally, taking a look is really that one-off payment to win that candidate. So what that means is a signing bonus is a huge benefit to construction professionals and one that they really want. And only a quarter of the employers out there offering it. So again, if you are offering it, you're part of the very few, so keep leveraging it. And if you're not, then you should really consider it and look at it as an attraction tool. So what can you do better to align with market expectations? So my first stop would be to talk to your employees. What matters most to them? Find out. A simple survey sent out company-wide can really help get some insights and tells you, what you need to prioritize and what areas and where they're most dissatisfied, or that they're pushing for change. We do this in our organization each year, and I'll be honest with you, I'm really surprised sometimes what people say matters, and I really didn't pick up on it throughout the year. So it really can help you create awareness, and you can improve your business. Again, I suggest using all resources to determine market expectations, candidate priorities. This salary guide, it's a really good way to start. So you guys are in the right place today. Obviously, we've got expertise in our recruitment consultants who you're probably dealing with today. Leverage them. Find out. They're dealing with hundreds of candidates that they're placing every year. So they can give you some frontline knowledge and help line up your best practices. And finally, when you're looking at making changes, prioritize those most wanted benefits first. So make a big deal about introducing free snacks. Won't help all your employees, but really it'll connect up with the ones that it matters to. So time off, whatever it is that you're putting out there, make sure that you're marketing and advertising it so all employees know you have it, and that they're actually seeing that it's being promoted as a benefit. So sometimes we find that some employees just don't know what benefits an employer even offers. So it's good to make them aware of what you provide. So there's a lot of competition for talent right now. Everybody's bidding on the same group of people, and I'm sure you guys feel that way. So doing the same thing that everybody was doing 10 years ago to attract people, it just isn't working anymore. It's such a tight labor market. So here's a perfect example. So almost 60% of employers are using job boards. It's the second most common recruitment method. However, excuse me, less than a quarter of those employers say it's effective. So why are you still using the job boards and spending that money doing the same old, and it's really not getting you the outcomes that you want? And really looking at it, why don't they work? Well, only 13% of people are actively job seeking at any given time. So of all the people that might be interested in your job, how many are actually on the job board and reading your ad? Maybe 1 in 10 based on the numbers. But if you could talk to the right person, 8 out of 10 would consider leaving for the right offer. So 80% are willing to leave, but they just aren't actively looking. So the problem you have is that you're not able to reach the right people, and instead waiting for them to come to you. So really what we recommend is you need to take a proactive, find and engage type model that goes out and builds your pipeline of talent, get to know people in the area, and really, win them over to your business. So one reason that, we as specialist recruiters are so effective, I'll kind of give you the secret sauce, is that, what we do all day, every day, is connect with people in the industry proactively without a job at hand, getting to know what it is that they want to do and connect them back to the right fit, the right employer, and the right career move. So every candidate, that's not right for today's job could potentially, be put forward to tomorrow's. So how can you build your own talent pool is really the question. How you can reach a lot of people, with the right experience and interests is one of the key questions. Well, we find social media is one of the best tools that we have right now for targeting a specific audience. So I don't know how many of you guys are using it. Statistically, not a lot based on our data. So there's going to really be 3 parts to that social media plan, but they all work together, so you can't do just one without the other. So you're really going to have to build your network alongside of that plan. Then you need to be sharing the right content consistently to keep your audience interested. So if you want to attract project managers, you can't just share jobs. You can't just post jobs online, especially to your Twitter account or your Facebook. Just posting jobs is a bunch of noise. They'll tune you right out. So you should also be sharing local content, news, opinions, project updates, what you're working on, things in the industry, and really dialing that into having your employees share that I think is key. So you want to be seen as a source of quality information, something that people will want to read and follow. And while you're bringing them in, with some really great information, you can also demonstrate that you're a great place to work as well. So share company wins, promotions, new hires. So when you have a job opening, people are really interested in your company and have an impression of what it's like to work there through your teams. So those are some of the key findings and recommendations. What I'd like to do now is just briefly recap and then show you how you can take some action items out of today that I think will really help improve in some key areas. So first, business activity, absolutely booming. We all know that, which is leading to a ton of hiring, right? No surprise. Skill shortage, it's here and it's severe. It's really bad out there. Very few people in your pool that you can tap, and employers are really struggling to attract and retain that. Third, a focus on salary for attraction means compensation is increasing, quite honestly, at an unsustainable level. It cannot continue to go up and up and up. Ultimately, there have to be other factors that you look at. And the last one, employers are missing really key attraction and retention tactics. So compare your team or organization's salaries and benefits to the market. So what this guide will allow you to do is take that data, and it's a great launching point to compare and contrast what you have internally. Really sit down, talk to your team about their career paths within the organization to secure them for a really long tenure. Like, what direction are they going? Have those conversations at good intervals, not just once a year, maybe, twice a year, maybe even quarterly, but keep that dialogue open. And really the third is to grow your network. I mean, that's the only way to touch as many people as you can and increase your chances of success when it comes to hiring. So what we really recommend is increasing that social media presence. It allows you to target people in a way that we couldn't do 5 or 10 years ago. So connect with an association, start developing a content plan, and that's a key area that we see companies that are succeeding that they are doing right now. Okay. So that's really purely a snapshot of the guide, just a quick run through. There's a lot of detail in there. Once the report comes out, which will be later this week, there'll be even more information that you can look at, and you can get a full copy of the report, which you can request by either one of our recruitment consultants that you're working with or by visiting the website, hayes.com/salary-guide. And that's really all I want to share for now. Hopefully that was helpful, but I do want to take a couple minutes just to open up for any questions that we might have received. Okay, so it looks like there's a few here, so let me try and tackle a couple of these. So here's one about social media. So you talked about grow your social media presence. We've done a lot in this area, but haven't actually seen it drive more candidates. Any ideas, question mark? So that's a great question, and it's one that, I think it's all about how you frame it up and what is success that you're looking for. I think first of all, you have to consider it takes a long time to build something like, a strong social media presence and awareness, and providing that value takes time. You're going to have to tinker with it. So it won't be immediate is my point in results. So if you're measuring it right away, hey, we've done this for 3 months, the reality is you're not going to see an ROI on that. It takes a bit of time. We'd probably say it takes a year of entrenching and, creating a consistent, usage of the tools to get the attraction. Also about the measuring, there will be some hires that come through it, but I wouldn't recommend using that as a measuring tool and a stick. It's not your traditional, post a job, applicant comes through, and you can track it one-to-one. A lot of candidates, it's about awareness of you, and they're seeing your culture and the type of projects you work on and type of business that you run, as well as the openings that might attract them. But you're going to probably get applicants indirectly through that. So really just, I would recommend measuring, your ROI in social media, mainly by just the awareness, and it won't show up on a balance sheet a lot of times. So keep that in mind. Also, one really good tip that the employers that are making the most of social media are seeing benefits is having your team post on your networks and their networks. So what happens is if you've got a team that ultimately just did a team building outing and they post something on social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, you're ultimately going to get a lot of publicity from it, and it's going to hit everybody's network, and then it gets shared and liked, et cetera. So, I would highly recommend, if you're not engaging your employees to share on social media, you're missing a key component. And quite honestly, they'll reach far more people, and it's also very authentic when somebody's sharing something about why they love working for the company or what they're doing as far as a project versus just a company self-serving, posting their information out there. So I don't know if that really helped, answer the question, but those would be some of my thoughts. Okay, excuse me. So here's a question about bonuses. So our company has never done sign-on bonuses. Is there any best ways to do them? There's not really a one-size-fits-all to this. What we're seeing is that the companies that are doing well, they're really using it as an attraction tool on the front end just to separate themselves from the competition. And there's really no secrets to it. I mean, putting some money in someone's hand is always enticing. You see sign-on bonuses across all industries. So within construction, what I would say is, there's not a set rule of thumb, but what we do see quite a bit is probably maybe like a 5% of salary and a bonus. It really depends on the job and how desperate you are for it. But the only thing I would recommend there is if you're going to put a bonus in place, which is a great attraction tool, is to really put a time frame on there. So make sure that it's like 90-day, type thing where it's payable then. So that way someone's not coming in and, unfortunately we've seen it, 2 weeks in, the employer writes them a check, and then they're having to go back and try and get it because they walked out and they quit 2 weeks into the job. So just to protect yourself, putting that 90-day in there is fair for the, the employee, but also protects the business. So I think that's pretty much, we've got some other questions, but we're up against time. I want to make sure that respectful of your guys' day. So with that, I really want to thank you guys for your time. Appreciate you sitting with us. Look for this information, and look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback. So hope everyone has a great afternoon and a great rest of your week.